I'll start. Welcome all to the 21st SF Doc Fest. I'm Gigi Haycock, one of the programmers at the festival, and you have had a chance to see Roger Corman, the Pope of Pop Cinema. And we are very fortunate to have today the director Bertrand Tessier and the producer Marion Broff. And they're joining to give us some insight into the film. And you've also formed a production company, I believe, to produce these documentaries. Is that correct? Like
Yeah.
California Prod, was it?
Yeah. Hello. Our company is called California Prod. And as the name says, we do basically all the documentaries about the history of American movies.
Yeah,
So,
that was one of my questions, is how you were drawn, because I know you have, Bertrand, you have a lot of literary, books and things you've written that's also about, Lauren Bacall and, Humphrey Bogart. And then you also have these multitude of films that are based also on that. And what is it about that, I mean, there's also French and other directors as well, but what draws you to that subject matter?
I like American movies, and I like, American movies are very important worldwide, because it is in America where the cinema is the most inventive, and Roger Corman is really inventive. He was not in the studio system. He didn't work for MGM, Paramount, Fox, Warner, etc. And he is an indie filmmaker before the others. And he directed his own movies, and he produced his own movies with his own money. So this is low budget, but with low budget, he make some movies very important in the history of cinema. And he was really the founder of the sci-fi, the horror cinema, etc. And of the blockbusters of today.
Right. You definitely got that when we were talking the Fast and the Furious, when he first did it, and then, was able to sell it, and now it's this massive franchise.
Second or third movies, and it was at the end of the 50s, and directed a movie called Fast and Furious, and now it is a very incredible success worldwide.
Yeah, and that was, and then also when they were talking about Jaws, that he basically had done that before, but now the budget kind of comes in, and then then Piranha and stuff like that. It was just really interesting to see. I mean, the influences.
It was a turn point. It was a turn point in the story of American movies, Jaws, because Roger Corman made movies like Jaws, but with low budget. And Jaws in 1974 or 75, it is, I say, a critic of the New York Times. It is a Roger Corman movie with big budget, with studio budget. And it was so successful. All the cinema changed after Jaws.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that he was known as they call him like the king of B, the B movies, and also the godfather of Hollywood, and you can just tell that from, Peter Bogdanovich.
B movies,
Tell us a little bit.
In the 50s, in the 60s, this was the Roger Corman's movies were considered as B movies, but now they are A movies.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah.
Because they are the roots of the cinema of today, of the high concept movies of today's. There was an idea, and he developed this idea.
Yeah.
This is all the high concept movies.
Right. And it seemed like one of his great legacies is and is going to continue to be that he did films that were for the youth because they weren't really being produced by large studios. And then he was giving the chances to people like Ron Howard and Peter Bogdanovich to do these films, you know, and kind of put a twist on it. And by the way, don't do a big budget because we don't have the money, you know. So that was really nice to hear that it may have been frustrating for them when they were younger, but how much they learned from basically the school of, you know, Roger Corman.
We forgot to mention.
Miriam will talk about that. Miriam will talk about that, but don't forget one thing. Roger Corman directed 60 movies in 15 years, and he produced 400 movies. 400 movies. It is incredible. So these movies were directed by new filmmakers, and Miriam is talking about that.
Yeah, I just want to mention also, we forgot about Easy Rider and Peter Fonda and all of them. Actually, Roger launches all these new, they were young, and he's still doing it actually, even if he's 96 and he's still taking care of young filmmakers, and he's still aware of what's happening, and he still has an idea every day. He's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It is really all the new Hollywood. It is really the godfather of the new Hollywood. He launched filmmakers as Peter Bogdanovich, Francis Coppola, Martin Scorsese, and later Joe Dante, Ron Howard, etc., etc. It is a great team. He likes the idea to have around him a great team of directors.
It's family. That's why maybe they call him Godfather. He's like the father, you know, and he just go and say, oh, you take the camera and you do the movie and you won't have money. And just as Peter Bogdanovich says in the movie, just swing, you know, and so that's why they love him and they are so grateful.
Yes. So
because you know, in the 60s and in the 70s, it was quite complicated to become a filmmaker. To become a filmmaker, you had to be an assistant, to have relationships in the studio, etc. With Roger Corman, it was not a problem. You don't have to. You didn't have that. You just need to have talent.
Yeah, and he could recognize that.
He gave a chance to all these guys.
Yeah, and didn't he say if you don't try and you fail, you know, it's just what happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what was interesting, I was thinking, it also, the kind of films he made, was able to possibly get over the censorship that was probably happening at that time. You know, I know horror films and things like that for DC Comics and those sorts of things were able to have subject matter that otherwise wouldn't make it past the censors. And it seemed like his films would fall into that category.
and nudity and women, the women power of the women. And yeah, he was free as a bird. That's why he explained that in the movie. And he was one of the first one who decided to put nudity in jails and those, movies about jail and women and horror movies. And yeah, he's a free spirit. And all his filmmakers, youngest ones are filmmakers, they are free too. And we can tell right now because they still, they're very talented, and you can tell that they are so different from the majors company and everything.
Yeah, because even using the nudity, they, sorry, go ahead.
Don't forget he is his own producer, so he can do exactly produce exactly what he wanted. At the end of the 60s, at the mid 60s, he wanted to make a movie about the Hells Angels. It was a real phenomenon in US. He made it. He wanted to make a movie about LSD and drugs. He made it. This is The Trip, starring Peter Fonda. It is an incredible film. And he wanted to make a film against racism in South of America. So he made The Intruder. The Intruder, this is really, it epitomized the indie film before the name of indie film exists.
Yeah, and he had to, it was very controversial. Well, not controversial for them, but being down there, it was, they were taking their life into their own hands, basically, in filming there, and it's so interesting to see all these young actors too, right? You've got Jack Nicholson in that, the role in Little Shop of Horrors. And all of it, you see them, and Peter Fonda, right? So anyway, it's exciting to see them then and just see them now, so that's definitely, I want to meet him.
You too. Well, actually, he was with us for the US premiere when we were in Santa Barbara, and he came to Palm Springs too, and he actually loves the film. So for the first screening, we were kind of nervous. He was sitting next to me, and that was his first time. Because you must know one thing very important. He's a free spirit, and he lets people free. So while we were shooting, he never asked any question, whatever. Just he said, "Okay, you do what you want," and he didn't know what we were doing, where, when, with who, and so. For the first screening, he was like, okay, let's have a look at this documentary. And I could feel him because he was sitting next to me, and I could feel his emotions, and sometimes he was laughing, and sometimes, of course, when he saw his brother, who unfortunately passed just after the documentary, Peter Bogdanovich, and I could feel him. So, and at the end, so he hugged me, and he was so happy, and he's thrilled, and he said, you brought so much emotion and love, and there are so many things I even forgot about, and he was very happy. So he came to another film festival in Palm Springs, and we were the audience was so happy, and we were very surprised because there were some student, 20 years old student, and all coming asking him questions, and that was, so we really realized that he's still, the impacts on the young generation is still there, and of course many of them dreamed about working with him again, and yeah, he's very humble, really humble, and full of, as you can see in the documentary, he's full of love for everything, for, you know, politics, cars and humans and filmmakers, and he's still very aware of all of this. And I just
Yeah.
admire him, really. You can
That
tell.
he's going to work until the very end. I love what he says is going to be on his, you know, his tombstone. The
Yeah.
last line. I've got a great idea for a picture.
Yeah.
You know.
Very curious, and sometimes said,
Yeah.
"Oh, we went to see him like 2 or 3 weeks ago," and he said, "Oh, I got a new movie. I have to look at it," and he was like very excited, and it was on Sunday, you know. He's always talking movies and ideas, and I love that. It's so alive, you know.
Yeah. Well, I felt that way just watching it. That it was, like I said, I said to you earlier, a film class to me in a way, but a really engaging one. I mean, there's so many things I didn't know that were revealed in the film that I appreciated, because I had an idea, you know, of Roger Corman, but I wasn't, you know, I didn't grow up actually watching as many of his films as those in the film had. And so it was just really wonderful to get it was like a full picture, you know, of his, you know, his political views of, you know, about wanting to take care of people, and all of that sort of thing came through that I don't think I knew before. So thank you so much.
The money and all that wasting of money in Hollywood, while we could, yeah, it's really politically, you know, really, yeah.
Talking about equity and putting it, you know, taking those profits and putting it into, you know, something that could help humanity instead. So yeah,
it's so
really.
I mean, it's so. We of course, we knew about him, and we admired. I admired the producer, but when you meet the person, you really admire the person. You know, he's a beautiful human being. That's what I find out, you know, while we were shooting, and it was.
How long did it take for you to shoot this film?
Well, when I first asked him about the documentary, that it was very quick. Actually, we met him for something else, and while he was talking, we thought, "Oh my God, he's got something to say," and we were thinking about it. But due to his, you know, he was like 94, you know, but still, I said, "Oh, we would like to make a documentary about you." And he said, he looked at me, and in 5 seconds he said yes. Then I said, "Well, we may have to follow you a lot." He said yes. And I said, "We may have to need your private archives and be there, you know." And he said yes. So we started shooting, and of course sometimes we had to stop because, you know, he's you know, he's like 95. So we had access. He opened his heart, but he also opened all the doors. So of course we went to his place in the office, and we were just like, and he never ever asked, "What you doing?" or anything. I was very surprised, you know, like, "Oh my God, this is a Roger Corman, you know, I better," and it was just like, you know. And so it took a while because we had to stop sometimes, and we had also some other interviews and archives, but it was absolutely one of my best memories. We already made like 13 documentaries, but that one was, you know, special to us, you know.
Oh, well, thank you both so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't thought to ask, even though I have a very long list here?
I mean, I don't know. I just, yeah, he's a part of your story, you know, the word American story, you know, for the. And this, as he said, this is my. This documentary is like his legacy. You know, he wanted to, and it's good because he's the one who talked about it, and he knows more than anyone what he did, when, where, and we love the idea that he's there and he's telling his story, and that was really beautiful.
Yes. Well, I obviously loved the film, and I hope that more and
you.
more people get to see it. So you'll be submitting it maybe to more film festivals. Is that your
Oh my God,
thought?
they already had like 9 selection already.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, there are people asking us. That's wonderful. So yeah, we're very proud of it. And, you know, we're so happy to share that with the audience. And we're very surprised because people really love it. And sometimes some festivals, they even have to add another screening because people are asking for it. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
you deserve it, you know, it's just like.
But you know,
Yeah.
Gigi, Roger Corman is part of America, of history of American motion picture, sure, but is also part of American way of life. Don't forget, at the end of the 50s and at the beginning of the 60s, his movies, B movies, horror films, sci-fi, etc., were screened not in theaters in the cities, in the towns, but in drive-ins. And drive-ins, it is really the American way of life. I think every American remember his first date in a drive-in.
Yeah.
So this is also the history of the drive-in.
And the happy days.
Well, I also like the stylized part that you used in the title sequence with the grainy and some of your interstitiary things that brought that kind of feeling of the drive-in and those times to it. That was a really, I enjoyed that scene.
The music was really important too, you know, so
yeah,
that was important. Yeah.
Right. Well, fantastic film. Thank you so much. And good, best of luck with the going forward. I know 9 more screenings are going to be happening, so that's great.
Wonderful, so enjoy, and yeah, thank you so much for.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gigi.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.